Hello, Sun City residents. This is Rusty Bradshaw with Sun City News and Stuff, and I'm here to give you some information, some highlights from the Recreation Centers of Sun City exchange meeting that took place earlier today. And it was quite a long meeting. First, I'm going to go through the topics from the last exchange meeting and give you the information that was in response to concerns. One resident said there should be a chairlift, handicap chairlift at every pool, and there needed to be a lift at Bell Pool for sure. Now, the Sun City Foundation has applied for a grant through the Christopher Reeves Foundation for lift chairs for the pools at all recreation centers of Sun City pools. And they're waiting to see if they qualify. If they do not qualify for that grant, then they will install a chairlift at the lap pool at Bell. The next resident wanted to make sure that the pool at Mountain View, which is to be part of the renovation there, would not be touched and would remain as is. However, more tables and chairs were needed to accommodate members using that pool. And the board countered that furniture is being replaced at Marionette Center, and the plan is to bring that old furniture, all of it that is usable, to Mountain View to use prior to the start of the project there. Another resident said the board needed to create a policy that no Sun City project can be delayed due to special interests, and any project should move forward within 2 years of conception. The board replied that the terms and conditions in the bylaws and board policy number 16 address that. And several members talked about the condition and lack of maintenance at Duffyland Dog Park, and they felt it needed to be addressed. They said that RCSC is not maintaining the park, and there are dead trees and water issues. The board replied that the Duffyland Dog Park Club has submitted a request to the club's office for the Duffyland improvements. The club's organizations committee will review once all clubs have submitted their requests for review and or approval. And another resident talked about the Lakeview tennis courts not being repaired or maintained. This resident claimed that she heard from the tennis club board that the board had agreed to repair and maintain those tennis courts in the near future. The board replied that there has been no discussion with the current board and the tennis club on this project. A previous board made the decision to not go forward with this project, and the decision has not changed. Now, at today's meeting, the same resident came up and pretty much went over the same ground, claiming that the tennis club board said emphatically, and she claims to have had it on tape, that 2 board members said that the project was to be dealt with very soon. Again, board president Tom Foster said, to his knowledge, there has been no such discussion, and although the discussion went on and on and on, longer than it definitely should have, it remains the way it was stated last month. There has been no discussion on doing that, and that has not changed. And finally, there was a request to bring back the guest passes online, and wanted to know if they could have both options, online or in-person pickup. The board replied that at this time they are staying with the punch cards because they have lost some functionality with that system online, and they are working to redevelop that online pass procedure. Now moving on, Chris Nettesheim had her monthly report on the progress of Mountain View, and they've gone through the first round of stakeholder meetings, and the county has also had pre-permit meetings with RCSC officials. County officials said they don't have to spend as much on water retention at the construction site, so there will be some savings. And the county said it didn't see any roadblocks to getting permits for the project. The project is in the schematic design stage, and they are also looking at the exterior of the building to decide on the aesthetics, the way it looks. The board will continue to share the progress of the Mountain View project, and they are continuing to work on a calendar of the project as it moves forward. There will be more stakeholder meetings and a final tri-arc presentation. Now, a good share of this meeting was based on Mountain View, and there were still people coming forward to try and make some changes to the plan. There were also some who came forward and said, let's move on. So one resident wanted the board to explain the reasoning for building a multi-purpose theater at Mountain View and how it affects other centers. Now, he also kind of inferred that this was a special purpose facility. This resident also wanted to know what PIF projects were scrapped due to the budget increase of $3 million for the Mountain View project. Board President Tom Foster said there was plenty of due diligence done on the activities at Mountain View and plenty of member input. He said there is a lot of flat floor spaces in RCSC's inventory. He said this theater is not a special purpose facility, but it would be used by lots of other groups who wanted to make sure that they had some space, some time in that space when it's completed. He reminded everyone that PIF funds are dependent on home sales, and there is a 10-year PIF forecast. However, he reminded people that it's just a forecast, it's not a carved in stone budget. Board member Preston Kice said the only way to know what a project costs is to get into the design. And he also reemphasized that the PIF is just a forecast, not a carved in stone budget. Another resident came up and said that the PIF should not be a pie in the sky numbers when placing items on there as placeholders. This member also said that at one time the Players Club had 640 members, but is now down to about 150. This member also said that with home entertainment, the numbers at live performances have decreased, and she wanted to have the numbers of player members confirmed and the number of audience members at their performances. Ms. Nettesheim said clubs self-monitor and self-report. So what they get for utilization comes directly from the clubs. She also said there's also always a waiting list to use Sundial. She also urged people to not make general statements such as no one is going to a live entertainment, because some still are. Another resident wanted to know if there was a feasibility study done for a theater, including projected use. They asked if it would be a first come, first served basis, or if certain clubs would get priority. And she also asked how much the players would be charged for use of the theater. Mr. Foster said there has been no discussion of charging rent for any groups who want to use it. Another resident said the board didn't ask the architect to study using Sundial for the players and other activities, wanted to know why not. This resident also wanted to know what the percentage of use at Sundial is. Ms. Nettesheim said that she wanted to know where the idea came from, that Sundial was never seriously considered as a performance venue. She said that the architect did take a look at Sundial to see what would have to be done to bring it up to specs for performances. And their response was that there needed to be more bathrooms built. They'd have to push the back of the building farther back to allow for more space backstage. Now, as far as seating is concerned, the retractable seating that would be done at Sundial would necessitate a wall or enclosure for those seats 8 feet from the back wall of the existing Sundial auditorium. And the storage area within that enclosure would take up another 6 feet into the auditorium. So they would be losing 14 feet, and however wide these seats would have to be. They'd also need to improve the sound system with modifications, and would still have to build a building at Mountain View with a flat space, or a flat floor, excuse me. And it was decided the players couldn't perform at Sundial without displacing other clubs. Rick Gray said he decided to run for the board to make sure that the board does not put its finger on the scale for certain projects. He said the president, Mr. Foster, has been excellent at keeping the finger off the scale. He said the board would have to look at all facts and data before making a decision on projects. He also said some people will be opposed to certain projects no matter what, and that you couldn't please everyone, but the board had to do what was best for the community. Another resident wanted to know what the cost for the theater alone would be, and would there be a professional manager to bring in acts for the theater. And this resident also said it would take $50,000 per year for operations of the theater at Mountain View. Ms. Nettesheim said that it was doubtful that they would need $50,000 for operational costs at the theater at Mountain View, because that is roughly what it would cost for operations at the downtown Phoenix Theater, which is much different. She said the cost for just the theater at Mountain View was $9.3 million. And she challenged residents to take part in finding the best for the project instead of fighting it. Board member Mike Kopic said he believed there was validity in having a professional manager for that performance space. RCSC General Manager Rebecca Hill said the leadership team is discussing how management would be handled at the performance facility. Another resident praised the board for its work in general and on the Mountain View project. Another resident came forward and said he was mad at the process that took 8 years to get this going. The previous plans for Mountain View were delayed for that amount of time, basically because a special interest group wanted something different at Mountain View. And those original plans were scrapped, and they went through a number of years of further discussion and another committee that went through plans which really amounted to nothing, in my ever to be most humble opinion. And this resident also said that if the Mountain View project had been started when it was originally planned, it would cost $6 million less than it's going to cost now. Okay, shifting topics a little bit, a resident came up and said the pickleball courts at Mountain View have bird droppings all over them, and bird droppings can contain diseases, and wanted to know why that isn't cleaned off. Director of Facilities Mike Werbrud said they spent a great deal of money with pest control at all centers and all other facilities. And again, changing topics from the Mountain View Theater, a resident said that they have not seen a document that states the Duffyland Dog Club members are responsible for maintenance. Director of Operations Mike Deermeyer said the agreement was emailed to the club president and that RCSC is sending custodial crew to the park 3 times per week. Board member Jana Mapes spoke about, pardon me for just a second, I think I've missed a page here. No, I haven't. Board member Jana Mapes said she has spoken with the club and have some ideas on things to do at Duffyland, but they don't have a budget yet. In regards to trees at the park, she said a list has been put together for trees that would address dog safety and water usage. A resident who is connected with the Sun City Players organization said the Players now have around 170 members, and that the 3 performances they've done this season have brought in about 4,800 people for the audience. He also said that the price for a ticket is the same for Sun City residents as for non-residents. He also mentioned that the Sun City Players have the lowest prices for live plays in the valley. And finally, Ed Van Ness said he has never seen in his 15 years in Sun City a board that has conducted itself so well. And he said the same is true for management. And toward the end of the meeting, a couple of people who had previously spoken got up and continued their discussions, and one went way over the 3-minute time limit, and I don't want to go into that in any detail because I think the board needs to, if it's going to have a 3-minute time limit, needs to enforce it and enforce it forcibly. If someone's going to stand up there and continue to talk, somebody needs to get up and take the microphone away. My opinion. So that's the highlights from the exchange meeting, and I thank you very much for watching.